inflation rate recorded in August. However, the NBS report shows that core inflation rose by 0.33% to 13.74% last month. The closely watched food inflation index dropped to 19.57%. Urban inflation rate fell to 17.19%, while rural inflation rate dropped to 16.08% last month. Meanwhile, the Statistician General of the NBS, Simon Harrier, said that decline in inflation rate is an indication of a positive trend and recovery of the economy, considering the current difficult economic situation in the country. Well, of course, we expect reactions to come from this. Economists have been chewing on this data. One of them is Dr. Yusuf, former Director General of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry and now the CEO of Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise. Dr. Yusuf believes that inflationary pressures remain a key concern in the Nigerian economy, both for businesses and for the citizens in general. He joins us now to share what he sees as the implication of this drop in inflation, even though core inflation is still increasing. Good morning, Dr. Yusuf. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Sure. So what do you see as the implication of this? I think it's like a two-way thing. Food inflation is down, headline inflation is down, but core inflation is up. What's the implication of this?
Well, first, we must commend the fact that we have seen a consistent deceleration in inflation rate over the past couple of months. I think that is commendable. But the reality is that inflation at over 16% is still very, very high. So we need to worry about the implications. First, because of the intensity of the inflation level, operation costs and production costs remains very high. There are effects also on the sales. There are effects on turnover. There are impacts on the profit margins of businesses because of the inflationary pressure. There are also implications even for the welfare of the people. Because if you talk to any Nigerian now, especially the average Nigerian, the major conversation now or the major concern as we speak is about high level of prices, high food prices and inflation pressures generally. So there's still a very serious welfare effect around inflation. So both from the citizen's point of view and from business point of view, we have been seeing very significant concerns around inflationary pressure. So that is not to take away the point that we are beginning to see a slight drop in inflation. But again, there's still a whole lot that needs to be done around inflation. Because the capacity of investors to create jobs, the capacity to expand, the capacity to grow, all of these things depend on how much progress businesses can make. But in the current inflationary environment, even though we are seeing some marginal declines, inflation still presents a major challenge, both to businesses and to the citizens as well.
But the figures show that food inflation has tapered, and yet, like you rightly noted, I mean, we all go to the market, we all buy things in the open market, in supermarkets, and we see that prices are, however, not tapering. So how do we relate these two?
Well, of course, there are issues. I mean, there have been discussions around that. There are issues of seasonality, for instance. But more importantly is to look at the factors that are impacting on this, which is the issue of security. Even though we are supposed to be in a harvest season and inflation is supposed to be dropping more significantly, because of the security situation around the country, which has been affecting particularly those who are in the agricultural sector, food production has gone down dramatically. And irrespective of what you say, once there's a drop in output, prices are likely to rise. So the security factor, I think, remains a major factor in all of this. And across all segments of products, the monetary factor is also important because we don't talk so much about issues of the monetary dimension to inflation. I'm talking about monetization of fiscal deficit, which has very serious implications for liquidity in the economy. As at the last count, we understand that the CBN overdrafts to the government has accumulated to about 10 trillion. This has very significant implications for liquidity. It has very significant implications for inflation. I think the monetary aspect also is something that we need to deal with, and to compel the CBN at least to limit the monetization of fiscal deficits to the statutory threshold that is stipulated, of course, in the CBN Act. And of course, we have the structural issues, which is affecting the entire agricultural value chain. And when I talk about these structural issues, I'm talking about issues of the processing, the production, the transportation, and all of that. All of those things also have very significant impact on food prices. That is why most times you see a very huge differential between what you call the farm gate price and the market price. It's because of the challenges of having to move these products from the farm to the market. There are issues of also the perishability of some of these items, the handling of the items, the cost of transportation. Now the cost of diesel has gone very high. Many of these vehicles that move the food products, most of them are running on diesel. So all of these things have a way of impacting on inflation and the final prices that the end users pay.
All right, Dr. Mude Yusuf, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, my friend.
So we'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation around the September inflation figure. Join us again.